sometimes when decluttering or downsizing, I get to a point where I just don't know what to take on next. I have done a lot of different areas that I thought were easy. They were like the top surface type, where you go through things that you know you don't want, things that you know you can donate, and you get to a point where you're like, where do I go next? What project category do I do next? What box do I do next? And after taking a break for a while, it can be hard to get back started again. And once I start, then I'm on a roll and I'm ready to keep going. But once I've stopped for a bit, then I'm like, okay, I finished that. Now what? So when I get stuck like that, sometimes I just take a little break and I think about what categories would make sense. Is there something in my head that would make sense that I'd say, hey, I can tackle that today. I can get that done. I know that that needs handled. Well, one of the areas was my hutch. I actually have 2 hutches. So I'm going to share with you today some of the topics and thoughts that I had when I started back decluttering again this week. I hope they're helpful. Sometimes when we're taking on a project of decluttering, especially when it's like heirloom stuff, it can be so overwhelming, or even if it's stuff that's just been given to us. So I had this idea that just popped into my head. I have 2 sets of Christmas dishes that were given to me, and we use the plates. We do not use the cups. And over time, we all know these small cups, no one really uses them anymore. They just don't, in our house anyway. And at one time, you went to these bigger cups, and now people are more into these like really big cups. And I just decluttered all of the glasses that went with this set. I had some goblets, I had some heavy bottomed glasses, I had some lightweight tea glasses. We never used them. So I kept the plates, I kept the saucers, and I decluttered all of the glasses. Well, now I'm going to declutter these coffee mugs. Same with these. These I might keep just because they're a little bigger. But these, I have a whole set of these really small ones. Now, we used to drink hot chocolate out of these when I was younger, but we don't even do that anymore. We use the bigger mugs if we have something like that, or we even use these regular size mugs. So I think I'm going to declutter all of these. So I just wanted to tell you, if you have got some things that are in a set and you feel like you can't break up the set, but then you realize that you don't even use certain pieces of the set, that they're not useful, that they just take up space, give yourself permission to break that set. That's what I'm going to do. And I feel really good with this decision. And then I thought, hey, I have saucers that go with that second set. I'm also going to declutter those. I have some other saucers that match, that are for dessert plates, but these go with the coffee cup to hold right there. So I'm going to get rid of those. It's so funny. The younger generation doesn't even know what this is for. We were talking about this last Christmas, and somebody asked for a saucer, and I'd handed them one. I said, oh, I'm sorry, that's a coffee saucer. And my grandson goes, what is that even for? So yeah, I feel fine getting rid of these to match the cups as well. Also, I was given a lot of old antique pitchers like this, and I've had some of these for so many years. And the other day I was going through them, and would you believe that one of the antique pitchers had been broken at some point before it was given to me, and had duct tape on the inside holding it together. I was like, I've kept this for 15 years. I had no idea that it basically was worthless. And so I threw that away. So another tip is to go through those heirlooms carefully and check them out. Things were kept because things were hard to come by, and everything was special back in the day when people passed heirlooms to one another. So look those over, because that one wasn't even worth me keeping. I have so many other things in perfect condition. There was no reason to hold on to something that was duct taped on the inside. We hear about death cleaning and the idea of getting our things cleared out so that our families don't have to come after us and clean up our messes. I am a huge believer in this. I am 58. I've been working on this for about the last 5 years. I believe they say that you should start this around 65 or 62, but I can tell you from my experience, it needs to be started way earlier. There's a lot of sorting, there's a lot of bending, stooping, lifting. It's tough and it's hard on your back, and I can only do little bits of it at a time. So I think starting earlier is definitely important, especially if you've lived somewhere for a very long time, like I have. I've lived in the same location for a little over 25 years, and you can really accumulate a lot of stuff in an amount of time like that, even if you haven't moved a lot in your lifetime, because moving, sometimes you will purge stuff. But if you haven't moved in quite a while, you don't tend to purge as much or even think about purging. Things just become part of your environment and you don't really notice them. I have been stuck with things that came from my dad, who's now been gone 15 years. And I have things from my brother, who's been in the nursing home almost 5 years. These things are taking up space, as well as things that I have that I wanted to go through. I feel like I got stuck trying to go through things that belong to other people. I think I have most of the things out of here now that belonged to most of my children, except for some toys and such that belong to the younger two that I need them to sort through and see what's important to them. But that isn't even a big deal for me. The toy thing, I think, it is theirs, but I have all this stuff that's mine, that's my brother's. I need to tackle that stuff. I need to not worry about this other stuff right now because it's fine where it is. But this other stuff is going to take specifically me to go through it. So I took some time this last week and I went through the last remaining 4 boxes that I had of my dad's. Well, in that, 3 of them were basically pictures, a lot of old pictures. But I had held on to some things in that 4th box that I just had a hard time, I think, mentally letting go. And you go through this sometimes with grief. You will go through things where you're like, this was theirs, I can't get rid of it. Or this is something that sparks a memory for me. And if I get rid of it, I won't remember that memory. Over these last 15 years that he's been gone, I have realized that those memories are with me. And a lot of these things that were in that tote, yes, they were his, but I don't need to keep a hold of them. They don't mean anything to me. I don't have a use for them. They weren't something that specifically I needed to keep. For instance, in one of them was a tie. The only tie my dad ever wore anywhere was in that box. And I thought, I can close my eyes at any time and see him in that suit and in that tie, because it's the only tie he ever wore. I have tons of pictures of him in that suit and in that tie. So I was fine with letting it go. Some of these things, they take time for our brains to tell us it's okay to let this go. And it sounds crazy to hold on to something that long. But part of the reason I held on to it so long was just because I've been decluttering other things. I've been working full time. I've been busy. And so that wasn't a priority. And I knew there wasn't too many boxes and I had a lot of other things to go through. So I just left them be, not really knowing what was even in those 4 boxes. My brother in the nursing home, he has slowed down asking me about the stuff that I'm storing. It really needs to go. He's in a private room. He has pictures. He has belongings. There was still some clothes left he can't wear anymore. So I washed those up and donated those, and I'm starting to go through his things that I know he will never be able to keep in his room again. I can hold on to a few special things that were his, but for the most part, a lot of his household knickknacks and things like that, they just need to go. So I do know I can tackle that next. But taking on that next project, especially if it's things that are not yours, that is hard to make decisions about other people's things that maybe they're never going to come back and go through again on their own. And that's one of the things I've battled with is I tried not to touch things that were not mine. But over time now, I've seen even though those things are not mine, they still need decluttered. I don't want to leave those for my children to deal with. So I'm continuing to purge, donate, go through things, see if they have a second life to them so that I can pass them on to someone that will enjoy it. The other day, I passed on an entire box of things in my brother's stash that went to our nephew. And he was so grateful and appreciative. I had asked him ahead of time, do you want this collection of this? And he said, yes, I do. And I said, terrific. I will wash it up. I will bring it to you. And I gave him that box. And that felt so good to give that to someone that I knew appreciated it and wanted it. This is one of the things we can do if we have children that don't want our stuff. And we hear a lot of times, your kids don't want your stuff. Ask them, what do they want? And make a plan to get that item to them so it's in the hands of somebody that wants it. And if you get to the point where your kids or you don't have any kids say, I don't want any of that stuff, start checking with nieces or nephews or cousins or other relatives, if you have some, that this might mean something to, so you can move it on to the next generation. I know for myself, moving things on to the next generation has felt really good for me. I feel like I'm not only decluttering it and downsizing and getting it out of my home to make more space, but I'm getting it moved on to the next generation that will appreciate it, that wants it, and can move it on then to their children or their family if it is important enough for them to keep. But once I give it to them, it's theirs to do with what they want. And that was the thing with the box of items I gave my nephew. He said, I have a few already. I said, if there's duplicates, sell them. Do what you want. They're yours. So don't have any attachments to the items that you give people. Let them do with them what they want to do. Your job is complete once you've passed them on. I hope that this has been helpful to some of you like me that's maybe been struggling with some of these decisions as you continue to downsize. I'm so thankful for all of you here and going through this journey with me of midlife, empty nest, early retirement, and frugal living. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you in the next video.